And wishing everybody a Shabbat filled with Shalom. Hope everybody's good today. I wanted to stay in the spirit of Pesach, our upcoming Pesach, as we delve into the feast days and how they're kept. I want to go into the letter of keeping the feasts versus the spirit of keeping the feasts. Kind of goes into the letter of the law versus the spirit of the law. A lot of us know the difference, some of us do not. Right? So I want to go into both of those and make a short but sharp contrast between the two. You got a lot of our newly awakened brothers and sisters who, when they do awake, there's a lot of zeal, there's a lot of excitement, which I understand. You know who you are, and it's an exciting thing, but it's easy to be filled with pride because of that. It's easy to have a prideful outlook because now you know you're the people of the book. But I kind of wanna, without taking away from the knowledge of us knowing who we are and whose we are, I want to highlight the importance of living in the spirit in order to establish a solid relationship with the Most High Yahweh through His Son Yahushai. Okay, because I don't think that's dwelt on enough. I don't think enough people, enough Hebrews, enough Israelites go into that. What does it mean to establish a relationship? Yes, we know that obeying the law is His love language, is the love language of the Most High. John 14:15, if you love me, keep my commandments. But if we're doing the law, doing the commandments for some reciprocity, then it's all in vain, because what's happening is you're being transactional. You're being transactional with your obedience rather than being obedient because of the mercy that was shown to us. So we're not obedient to say, hey, I followed your law, now you owe me the kingdom. We're being obedient because you showed us unmerited mercy. And how can we not now be obedient? How can we not show you that love by being obedient? You being the Most High Yah, how can we not show that love? So that's where the Spirit comes in. That's where the Spirit starts to come in. So let's kind of touch on that for a little bit. We know what the letter of the law looks like. We know what the perfunctory acts of the letter of the law looks like. We just have to go to the Old Testament to find that out, right? But why don't we go to Galatians first? Let's go to Galatians 3:23, because Galatians 3:23 and 24 kind of gives you a synopsis of what it is to go from one, the letter of the law, to two, the spirit of the law. So let's go through that right quick. 23 says, but before faith came, we were being guarded under Torah, having been shut up for the faith being about to be revealed. Therefore, the Torah became our schoolmaster unto Mashiach, in order to be declared right by faith. Okay? But after faith has come, I'm on 25 now, we are no longer under a schoolmaster. Let's stop right there for a minute. Well, let's go to 26. For you are all sons of Elohim through faith in Mashiach Yahushai. Okay? So let's stop right there for a minute. We have a concept of the perfunctory acts of the law being like a schoolmaster. Before I go further, I want to say this. Before there was the perfunctory acts of the law, before there were the works of the law, before there was the letter, there was always the spirit of the law. There was never first the acts of the law. the letter of the law first. There was always, from the beginning of time, the spirit of the law was always first. When we lost our relationship with Yah, when we lost what it means to love Yah, to obey Yah, when we lost that, we needed a more rudimentary way of learning how to have a relationship with Yah. We needed something that was more elementary. Hence came the letter of the law. We were in the classroom, as it was. We were in the classroom learning the letter of the law, the sacrificial system, the Levitical priesthood, all the things that would be shown on the outside. Okay? Yeah, sure, these things showed other nations who we were and what we were about, but it didn't necessarily speak to a heart issue. And that was what the Most High Yah, through his son Yahawashi, was trying to teach us. Okay? He was teaching us to get back to the heart of the matter, to loving him with all our heart, mind, and soul. Alright? So I'm gonna try my best not to be long, because I know attention spans are not really all that great these days. So I'm gonna try to be as succinct as possible. Okay? So what happens when we are no longer under the law, graduating from that classroom, as it were? Graduating from that, let's talk about it for a minute. Graduating from the classroom and no longer being under the law. Now, when you graduate from school and you're no longer sitting in that teacher's classroom, you're no longer having to show up to report anymore, to sit behind that desk. Now you've got your cap and gown on. Now you're done. You're finished. Okay? You're done with that teacher. You're done with that classroom. But does that mean that you are done with the lessons that you were being taught? Does it mean that you're done with the principles that were instilled in you? No, it doesn't. A lot of Christians make that mistake, to say, well, we don't have to believe in X, Y, Z anymore because we're no longer under the law, we're under grace. But they have it backwards, they have it wrong. The same way you are not supposed to forget about the lessons that schoolmaster taught you while you were in his classroom. You're supposed to take those principles with you throughout your life. And if you're not going to do that, then what was the point of you sitting in that classroom in your formative years? What was the point of you learning those principles if you were going to leave those principles right there in the class? So no, we're not supposed to be coming to that class anymore. But those principles that were taught to us, we're supposed to take that with us wherever we go. Okay? That was the point of being under that schoolmaster. Okay? It's the same as if you're graduating college, but you are not able to take anything you've learned into the workforce. It's almost kind of like those college courses were like, what was the point of them? What was the point of any of them? Right? So I wanna start. Well, we've already started, but I want to go to Luke 22 for a minute. I want to point out some things. Luke chapter 22, verse 15. And he said to them, with desire I have desired to eat this Pesach with you before my suffering. Verse 16. For I say to you, I shall certainly not eat of it again until it is fulfilled in the reign of Elohim. Okay? And taking the cup, giving thanks, he said, take this and divide it amongst yourselves. For I say to you, I shall certainly not drink of the fruit of the vine until the reign of Elohim comes. This is Yahawashi speaking to his disciples. Verse 19, and he said, taking bread, giving thanks, he broke it and gave it to them, saying, this is my body which is given for you. Do this in remembrance of me. Likewise, the cup also after supper, saying, this cup is the renewed covenant in my blood which is shed for you. Okay, stop right there for a minute. He said to do this in remembrance of me. Why? Because the same way the law was our schoolmaster back in what a lot of people would call Old Testament times, it's the same way Yahushua was a schoolmaster or a teacher to his disciples. But he saw that there was going to come a day when he would not be with them. But the principles that he taught them, he expected them to carry with them throughout their journey on earth, throughout their time. He didn't expect them to forget about his lessons and his principles just because he was not going to be there anymore. So he said, do this in remembrance of me, not in order to get anything, but because you've already gotten salvation. You've already gotten unmerited favor. So you're going to do this not in order to get, but because you already have gotten. Okay? So this is gonna hit. This is where I really wanted to go to. Let's go to Corinthians 5. Verse 8. 1 Corinthians 5:8. I apologize for not for forgetting to put 1 Corinthians 5:8, but it's 1 Corinthians 5:8. It's talking about the Feast of Unleavened Bread. But listen to what it says. Now keep in mind, this is what a lot of people would call New Testament, right? And for those who think that because we're no longer under the law, the principles can stay behind and that we're no longer keeping these feasts anymore or the Shabbats anymore. I want you to keep in mind 1 Corinthians, very New Testament, okay, script, and it says, so then let us observe the feasts, not with old leaven, nor with the leaven of evil and wickedness, but with the unleavened bread of sincerity and truth. Stop right there for a minute. He just said, let us observe the feasts. He didn't say it was done away with. He said, let us observe it. Let us observe it, but not with the old leaven. In other words, not with the letter of the law. Not with perfunctory acts of getting all the leaven out of the house and all of that. The act of getting all of the leaven out of the home was an outward act to teach us what we should be doing in our hearts. But here we have Paul in 1 Corinthians telling us that we're going to still keep the principle of the unleavened bread. But instead of that leaven being thrown out of your house, that leaven has to be thrown out of your heart. So you see, the schoolmaster never expected you to forget his principles just because you left his classroom. The schoolmaster expects us to keep his principles. Okay, no matter where we go. Yes, we've graduated. Yes, we're no longer under the tutelage or the authority of the law, which is that schoolmaster. But those principles we are expected to keep with us. Okay, all the time. In my view, Hebrews chapter 7 kind of sums that up. Okay, why don't we touch on that really fast? Hebrews chapter 7, we can start at verse 12. And I'm going to Hebrews because it talks about what happened to the law. If you've listened to any of my other videos, you might see me refer to Hebrews 7:12 quite a few times. But I'm going to read it for you. I'm going to go down to maybe 18. And it says, for the priesthood being changed of necessity, there also takes place a change of the law. Now, what was the change? Keep in mind, it said change. It didn't say an abrogation of law. It didn't say a doing away of law. It said a change. But what was that change? Let's go further. In other words, let's just go further. For he of whom this is said belongs to another tribe from which no one had attended at the altar. Okay? Before I go further, who was from another tribe from whom no one had attended at the altar? Keep in mind, in what you would call OT times or the Tanakh, you had the Levitical priesthood, and throughout Israel's existence, it was someone from the tribe of Levi, more specifically, someone from the lineage of Aaron, who attended at the altar and served as our priest. Okay? But here comes this strange new thing now, because here we have not only a priest, but someone in the position of a high priest who is attending from a tribe that was not from Levi. This priesthood was after the order of Melchizedek from the tribe of Judah. And the tribe of Judah was another tribe from which no one had attended at the altar, as it says in 13. Okay? For it is perfectly clear that our Adon rose from Yahudah, a tribe which Moshe never spoke of concerning the kahuna. The kahuna means priesthood. And this still clearer still. This is clearer still if another priest arises in the likeness of Melchizedek, who has come not according to the law of fleshly command, but according to the power of an endless life. Okay? For he witnesses, you are a priest forever, according to the order of Melchizedek. There is indeed a laying aside of the former command because of its weakness and unprofitableness. Okay? I'm going to stop right there for a minute because we're talking about things that have been laid aside in exchange of something superior. We're talking about a laying aside of having to go into the teacher's classroom anymore. We're talking about a laying aside of listening to the schoolmaster. We're talking about an implementation of embedding those principles that the schoolmaster taught us into us so that when we leave that classroom, those principles are now a part of us. Do you know why we are no longer under the law but under grace? It's because we have those principles that the lawgiver taught us. We have those principles inside of us, and once we have those principles inside of us, any way we conduct ourselves, it's not going to be breaking of those laws. If you are taught not to go beyond 50 miles per hour and break the speed limit, if you don't have it in you, if your propensity, if your proclivity is that of a speed demon, you are going to put your foot on that brake, not because it's in you to do so, but because you are acting based off of consequences. We are consequence driven. You're acting based off of, okay, that sign says 40, let me not go 50, because if so, something bad is going to happen. I'm going to get pulled over, right? That's if you have a proclivity to speed. But if it's not in you to speed, right? If there's been a change, an internal change in you, and it's not in you to speed anymore, then you're gonna drive accordingly. You're gonna conduct yourself on that road accordingly. Why? Because it's not even in you to speed anymore. You don't have to worry about breaking the law because it's in you, it's naturally in you to go at a moderate speed. That is what it's like. That is what it's like to no longer be under a schoolmaster. Because if you are in the spirit, you are not under the law. It's the law that points out, hey, you don't do this, you don't do that. It's the law that shows us our deficiencies. It's the law that shows us where we're wrong, where our proclivities lead us astray. But being in the spirit, we're led by that spirit. And that spirit is not going to lead us in any way, shape, or form that's going to go against that law anyway. Because now we have the Ruach HaKodesh, which is the spirit, downloaded into us. I'm using the word downloaded, just, as familiar language, right? So this is what it means to not be partakers of the letter of the law, but be of the spirit of the law. Okay? And this is what it means to keep the feasts. This is what it means to keep Pesach in the spirit of Pesach. So when we're keeping Pesach in the spirit of Pesach, no, are we going to bring a lamb into the house and slaughter it? No. Why are we not going to do that? Because Yahushai is our lamb. He became our lamb 2,000 years ago, and that sacrifice is good today. So the principle of a sacrifice we still have, and I'm talking about principles, right? The principle of a sacrifice we still have. Yes, we sacrificed and slaughtered bulls, goats, bullocks, turtle doves, lambs, because the wages of sin is death, right? When Yahushua HaMashiach came and did away with that through his sacrifice, we still have the principle of a sacrifice. The principle is that there has to be a sacrifice, but now he's our sacrifice. So that is how we still have the principle of a sacrifice, but having been changed from one of slaughtering animals to a superior sacrifice, which is in Yahushua. We still have a priesthood, but only instead of an inferior priesthood, according to the order of Aaron, we have a superior priesthood after the order of Melchizedek. So you see how the principle doesn't go anywhere. The lesson doesn't go anywhere. The Aaronic priesthood was only a schoolmaster for the superior priesthood to get us ready for that superior priesthood. The blood offering of animals was a schoolmaster so that we can accept more readily the superior sacrifice of Yahushua on the tree. Okay, so we're talking about the letter versus the spirit. So Pesach is to be kept in remembrance and honor of Yahushua's sacrifice, of Yahweh's sacrifice of his son Yahushua. Not in terms of slaughtering another animal, but in terms of acceptance of his sacrifice. Okay? For us. So in terms of that acceptance, now the sacrifice is no longer blood, but it's now praise. Praises to his name is our new sacrifice because it shows an acceptance of his sacrifice for us. It shows an acceptance of the job he's doing on our behalf in terms of being a high priest, a Kohen Akadal for us. Okay, so I hope that this lesson, I hope through this talk and this lesson, I was able to more thoroughly point out the differences between how we keep the feasts. I hope I was able to point out the keeping of the feast through the spirit and not through the letter, and how the principles of the feasts have not gone anywhere. The feasts are our appointed time, and that was instituted back when time began. Okay, it didn't just come with Moses. It didn't just come with Abraham. It was when time first began. The spirit of that law, the spirit of the feast have always been. Okay, so I hope I was able to point that out to you. I want to wish everybody a Shabbat Shalom and a restful afternoon, and we will reconvene again.